Hi, I'm Yitzi Kasowitz. I work with Brickmania. I'm here in Brickworld Chicago, helping and representing Brickmania. But since I was coming anyway, I brought my personal mock, which I just completed right before I came out here. So far, it's been about 2.5 years of research to get this as accurate as possible. It is to scale, about 1/600th and something. So this was a pretty large structure. Just to give you an idea, I'll point down here so you can see one of these studs. For every one stud, you could fit 100 people in that area, approximately. So any gateway that you'd see here, that would be approximately, let's say, a 1x2 plate, that would be equivalent to 10 by 20 cubits. This is all measured in cubits. There's a discrepancy of exactly how big a cubit is, if it's 19 inches or 22 inches. So I just measured it all in cubits. And as far as the cubits go, it is to scale. And I used the Talmud, the Mishnah, Maimonides, Josephus, other experts that I could contact. And I went through all the details over and over and over. I built and rebuilt this many times. I can show you some parts of this that come apart. So what you just see now on the surface is part of it. I just started with this top part. I was going to build this as a kit for my company, jbrick.com. I do Jewish-themed building kits. I do menorahs and dreidels, Seder plates, and charity boxes, stuff like that. So I was going to do this as a kit. But then it ended up expanding more and more just so I could learn about it to make sure to get it right. Because one of my personal designs for a menorah or something, I could do my own. But this, there's a lot of history, and I wanted it to be accurate and not get it wrong. I'm still learning a little bit more about it, and if anyone sees, a detail that they disagree with or something, I am happy to hear their opinion and clarify it and correct it if I can. So I can show you really quick, just starting from the mountain. They didn't want this house of God, this holy house, to be contaminated with any impurities from beneath, like if there was a cemetery, if anyone was dead. So I'll just remove this section here. What they did was, King Herod built, this is the second temple. King Solomon built the first, and they remodeled or rebuilt it based off of the first one. But the original one, this was Mount Moriah, that they hollowed it out and put arches and vaults and stuff to raise it up. Right here, this is a possible location. You never know of where the Lost Ark or Hidden Ark might be. You never know. I just had to throw that in there. It's Lego after all. We can do that. And that's how they got the entire surface flat, just to build up from there. Then, so this 500 by 500 square cubit area, this was like the holy ground. And people would come up from the southern side here. They'd come up these steps from the lower city of Jerusalem. They would do their thing going around, and if they had a sacrifice they wanted to bring or something, they'd bring it in through these gates. The priest would take care of it over there. I could spend 2 hours telling you all the details. I'll just go over really quick. But this would be the women's courtyard here. These torches here would be for the one time of year, the holiday of Sukkot, when they would have a big celebration. Otherwise, they would take those away and just be an open courtyard. Here's a lower courthouse. You have another one here, and this would be the large courthouse with 71 judges. The lower one had 23 judges. But then I continued the removable parts here just so you could see other things that you can't see in other models, like the Levites stored their instruments in this room. You can't normally see that, so I thought I got to build this model so people can see that if I'm able to.
And that's the great thing about Lego, is you can have this kind of modular and in sections and kind of show how that all came together.
Yeah, absolutely. So then I might as well continue it here where the top of the mountain, actually there's two parts of the mountain that actually had to touch holy parts. One was the altar, which would be right here. The second part was the Holy of Holies, which would be the back part of the rock. This would be the foundation rock. Currently the Dome of the Rock is on this platform. The exact location, there's a discrepancy of which part of the rock it is, but more or less that's where it is. This tunnel went down from the Levites' area where they stored their instruments down to the priests, also under, it would be in the basement of this building here, which had an additional 4 rooms. But that particular room, there was a stairwell going down where the priests, they had their restroom down here and a ritual bath. And actually, the story of Hanukkah, when the Maccabees came and chased the Greeks out, they had defiled the altar. So they took apart the altar and they stored it down in this room. This would be, the room up here. And then they built a new one. So, learning about the different holidays and stuff, a lot of them actually tie into the temple. Along with the Ten Commandments, or part of the Ten Commandments, there's actually 613 commandments, a lot which apply to the temple itself, which we don't have today, but it stood for 420 years, and we have a lot of history on it, and we hold it dear. There is other parts to this. There are some discrepancies, but there's new archaeological digging and stuff that lends itself to updating old models and paintings and stuff. So I didn't just want to copy it off of other models and drawings the way I've always seen it. I wanted to actually read all the text and go to the experts and do it as accurately as possible.
Very nice. So if you can talk about this section some more over here and kind of what these buildings were, and then also when it was destroyed by the Romans, kind of how that worked.
Oh, absolutely. So you had the, this would be the northern part of the extension past the 500 cubits of the holy area. The walls of Jerusalem would start kind of back here in the northern part, and on the southeastern part would be the rest of the wall going around to Jerusalem. And those areas were the wall was pretty thick and pretty heavily fortified. So no army would really attack from there. Down here you had the Kidron Valley, and you had that Mount of Olives, and then it would be difficult for armies to get through here as well. It was a pretty deep valley. So really the only place that an army would be attacking from would be from this side here. So the Romans decided they'd have to deal with this fort. This was Fort Antonia, which used to be Beera, occupied by the Maccabees, but eventually when the Romans came here, their garrison, they had at least 600 troops in here. This courtyard is probably where they practiced their drills. But before they came in, when the Jews occupied it and the Romans came in to attack it, what they did is they actually, this pool of Israel, they filled in with dirt, and then that's how they were able to bring their battering rams and come in and attack this wall, and ultimately come in and destroy this wall and get past. And when the temple, and they say was burning, was on fire and flames, and you could see in Jerusalem from far away that the temple was on fire, was actually the wood that was on top of these porticos going around the entire perimeter. Those were what was burning, because most of the rest of the temple was actually just out of pure stone. There was actually a quarry over here where they carved out stone from the mountain, brought it over here. King Herod, the way he wanted to be remembered was his structures had stone that were chiseled and polished in a certain way, and that's how pretty much all the stones around here were. And wood was a high commodity because it was more a desert. They didn't really have too many trees, so they actually imported trees from all over the place, and they didn't coat it with gold. They just left it out and carved it, and it was pretty impressive just all on its own. People would walk around just to look at this amazing structure.
Yeah, that's amazing. So this whole build is so great, and I love the amount of research you've done on this. So do you have plans to expand and build more of Jerusalem or anything like that in the future?
It's a great question. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback here. Like I said, originally I wanted to make this a kit. People are actually emailing me and asking me, please tell me when this is actually going to be a kit. So I'm probably going to have to come out with this nanoscale kit soon. But even my boss, Daniel Siskin, he's like, why don't you go ahead and build the rest of the city of Jerusalem down here? You could do it on this scale pretty easy in the upper city and build the wall around. I'm like, yeah, I think, I could do it. I could pull that off. What I would really like to do, I'm not sure if I'm going to get donations or how exactly, but it's really hard to show the scale of this, to really be impressed by the grandeur of it, unless it is to scale with people. And a Lego minifigure is approximately 1/35th scale. And if I could show a Lego priest, a 1/35th scale, with a doorway that would be that high, 10 by 20 cubits, or the 20 by 40 with the large building, then you could really appreciate the grandeur of it. And 1/35th scale would probably be about 12 feet long, maybe 4 or 5 feet high. A little bit of money, a little bit of time, But that's really my goal. I would really like to get that to so you could really appreciate it. If I wasn't here explaining it to you, it would be kind of, cool model, looks great, good job, pat on the back, but you don't really get how large this project was. King Herod was, he was a king, but, he slaughtered 800 rabbis and their families, and he wanted to make up for it, and the Jews were like, well, why don't you kill yourself? That'll, take care of it. And he's like, well, that's not going to happen, but how about I rebuild the temple for you? And they didn't believe him. So he's like, I'll tell you what, let me get all the materials ready to go, and you tell me how to do it. So then they're like, okay, we can do that. So he used places like this royal portico and this fortress over here that he rebuilt and named after his friend Antonia. He did that part that had a large, heavy Roman influence, but the rest of the part that had to do with the previous temple and Jewish law, and they had already had the prophecy from Ezekiel how to build the third one, but they had difficulty with it. That's how the rabbis basically came up with, instead of just doing a beautiful architectural building, it had to go according to the different sacrifices and all that stuff, and they already had from King Solomon how it was supposed to be through his father, King David, that got directly from God. So this was God's house. Countries from around the world donated, everyone to be a part of it. There are many more details that, even like this crown over here, this menorah or candelabra was donated by Queen Helena to when the sunlight would hit it. That's when they would know to get up and start with their prayers and their daily service. Again, there's many more details. I could go on and on all day, but my goal is to really, I want to make that 1/35th scale. But this was a great learning tool for me, and I know schools and camps and private people, Jewish, Jewish, religious, non-religious. I mean, this is a piece of history that at the time they said if you hadn't seen this building, you have not seen a nice piece of architecture or such a great house. So I tried to do this as accurately as possible so everyone could appreciate this. And I plan on expanding this, and if people want this in a museum or they want me to tour with it and show it off, I'm happy to do the best I can.
Awesome. Well, thanks for bringing it here to Brickworld, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for the interview, and hope to see you around again.
Definitely.